Think about how you found your current job. Or maybe just how your responsibilities have changed, even just in the last few years. It's probably pretty different from how things used to be, right? So, what are the big forces reshaping how we work? And, what does that mean for all of us? That's what we're digging into today.
Absolutely. We've looked at a really um, interesting collection of material here. Everything from the recent discussions around classifying certain workers differently
Hmm.
to the ever increasing role of automation and how employers are understanding and managing their teams these days.
Yeah, and our goal today is really to get to the heart of these changes. Like, what are the core shifts happening in the world of work? What are the real concerns, the valid questions that come up? And maybe most importantly, how are these shifts actually impacting things like job numbers, the skills we need, maybe even our expectations around privacy? Okay, so let's get into it.
Right. So one of the kind of long-standing worries with new tech is this idea that machines will just lead to mass unemployment. We saw similar anxieties when computers first came on the scene, and the question keeps popping up.
Yeah.
Is automation going to eventually take away most jobs?
It definitely feels like a natural concern, doesn't it? I mean, more efficient tech usually means fewer people doing the same task. But a report from the OECD actually offers a different take. Historically, they found that faster tech progress has also led to faster growth, better living standards, and maybe surprisingly, more employment overall.
That's a really key point. Think about that simple example, digging by hand versus using an excavator. Someone might argue, oh, using shovels creates more jobs.
Mm.
But that argument kind of misses the bigger picture, right?
Mhm.
About efficiency and how that efficiency can actually drive new economic activity. Prioritizing the number of jobs over the ability to produce more, well, it isn't always the best way forward for progress.
That's a helpful way to think about it. And we can actually see this in the data. Since 1979, the US has seen a really significant drop, like over 7 million in manufacturing jobs. But here's the kicker. During that same period, the total output of American factories more than doubled.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about a big automaker like GM. They employ way, way fewer people now than they did back in the 70s, significantly fewer. Yet they produce more cars and trucks than ever. That jump in output with fewer workers, that's automation, plain and simple. And it's not just jobs vanishing. We're even seeing some companies bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. Why? Well, robots, cheaper energy here, and being closer to their customers.
So it's not as simple as just technology destroying jobs. It feels more like a big shift, doesn't it, in the kinds of jobs available. Sure, certain roles, like telephone operators, meter readers, maybe even some middle management jobs that were about routine info processing. They've definitely seen reductions.
Uh-huh. But then, at the same time, entirely new sectors just pop up. Think about the internet
Yeah.
or mobile communications. These industries, which were totally different or didn't really exist like this just a few decades ago, they've created vast numbers of new jobs, jobs we couldn't have even pictured back then.
Right. And there's also the price effect. Often, technology helps make goods and services cheaper. And when things get more affordable, more people buy them. That increased demand can then create more jobs elsewhere. The music industry is kind of an interesting case study there. Technology changed how music got out, right? From mostly serving the wealthy to reaching, well, almost everyone. And that shift ultimately supported more jobs overall in music.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is if you look at it, computer tech adoption has been pretty steady, right?
Okay.
A consistent trend. But unemployment rates, they've bounced up and down quite a bit over that same time. So that suggests that the overall unemployment level isn't just about the tech itself. It seems more tied to how well the economy can, adapt and adjust to these changes.
Okay, so the new jobs technology creates, they often need different skills than the ones that get displaced. It's not like a one-for-one swap. Like the computer industry boom needed computer engineers, system analysts, roles that usually need college degrees, unlike maybe some of the clerical jobs that were automated.
That's right. But there's another interesting twist, too. Because training can be quicker now, and because there are these sophisticated automated support systems, some companies are actually more open to hiring people without very specific skills already baked in. They
Mhm.
figure they can train them up fast and let the tech help them out.
Mm. This really brings up some big questions about what work will look like down the road, like what jobs are most likely to be eliminated or just change dramatically. Could some jobs we think of as high skill become more routine, needing fewer specialized skills because of AI or automation? And what totally new jobs might appear that we can't even conceive of right now? And I guess, what does all this mean for how we value different kinds of work, different human skills?
Yeah, these are really the crucial questions, aren't they? And it's not just what work, but where we work is changing
Hmm.
too. Telecommuting, working from home electronically linked up, or having a mobile office,
Right.
that's becoming way more common.
Definitely. And you can see the appeal for both sides, really. For employers, maybe lower overhead costs, less office space needed, and surprisingly, maybe lots of studies show remote workers can actually be more productive, happier, even more loyal. And for employees, obvious benefits like saving commute time and money, less stress, more flexibility,
Yeah.
which is huge for managing family stuff or just life happening.
True, but it's not all smooth sailing. Employers sometimes struggle with maintaining that strong team culture, keeping communication flowing when everyone's remote. And for some employees, yeah, that feeling of connection to colleagues, to the company's mission, it can weaken. There's also sometimes a tendency for work hours to just bleed into personal time. And the cost of setting up a home office, that can kind of shift from the company to the worker. Plus, security, data security, tech security. It gets more complicated with remote setups.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it makes you wonder, for you listening, what are your own experiences or your thoughts on telecommuting? How has it affected you, or how do you think it would?
And beyond just working from home, there are big shifts in who does the work. We hear a lot about outsourcing and offshoring. Outsourcing is basically one company hiring another to do tasks they used to do in-house. Offshoring is taking that work, those processes, to another country, usually to cut costs.
Right. And then there's the flip side, sort of inshoring. That's when a foreign company moves work to the US, so it's offshoring for them, but jobs for us. And it's interesting, actually, a growing slice of the US workforce now works for foreign-based companies.
hmm And while these global strategies can save companies money, for sure, they bring their own headaches too. I mean, probably most of us have dealt with customer service where language differences made things tricky. And for U.S.-based employees, they often need new skills, right? Managing teams spread across the globe, different cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. Software development, tech support, those are classic examples. They could be in-house, contracted locally, or sent halfway around the world.
Okay, so switching gears a bit to how the work actually gets done. Employee monitoring. This isn't totally new, of course. Think about old punch clocks, handwritten logs.
Sure, basic timekeeping.
Right. But the level of detail and just how often monitoring happens now, that's ramped up massively with technology.
Yeah, it used to be more focused on like factory floors or routine office tasks, right?
Yeah.
Supervisors watching, maybe checking output at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now we're looking at a much wider, more sophisticated digital surveillance landscape in many workplaces.
And you see it in lots of ways. Data entry jobs might track keystrokes per minute, accuracy, maybe even flag if someone's idle too long.
Or in retail, those cameras aren't just for shoplifters. They're often watching how employees interact with customers, what they're doing.
And call centers, tracking call numbers, length, time between calls, even recording conversations.
And then there's the whole blurring of lines between work and personal life, especially with tech. Lots of employers have rules against using company phones or computers for personal stuff. Okay, but what happens when employees use their own phones or laptops for work? Which is super common now. It creates all sorts of knots to untangle around device management, data security, keeping work and personal stuff separate.
Right. And the data shows a pretty large chunk of major U.S. companies do monitor employee email or voicemail on company systems. Many also track web usage on the company network.
Some might just do spot checks. Others monitor pretty much everything electronically on their systems.
And the reasons they give, usually things like training, checking productivity, making sure people follow communication policies, or looking for security threats or bad behavior.
We also see companies blocking websites, right? Like adult sites, sure, but also sports news, job search sites, social media. The worry there is usually about lost work time, security risks like malware from dodgy sites, or employees doing stuff online that makes the company look bad.
So what about the legal side? There's the ECPA, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. It offers some protection against snooping on electronic communications.
But there's a big but for employers regarding their own business systems. Courts tend to give a lot of weight to the fact that the employer owns the equipment, provides it for work.
Still, it's not a free-for-all for employers. Courts have sometimes said monitoring is unlawful, especially if it looks like it's targeting, say, union organizing or trying to find whistleblowers.
Yeah, a key thing legally is often whether the employee had a reasonable expectation of privacy. And company policies on email and voicemail matter here, too. Plus, the National Labor Relations Board gets involved in these employer-employee issues.
Okay, and this tech influence extends right into hiring, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The internet, social media, huge sources of info for employers checking out job applicants now. They'll do online searches, look at public profiles, maybe even use data brokers, and automated screening tools to sift through applications. Very common.
And job seekers know this, right? People are trying to manage their online image, clean up their digital footprint.
Definitely. They're much more aware that what's online can be seen.
But here's a trickier area. Employers disciplining people for stuff they post on their personal, non-work social media.
Yeah, that pushes employer oversight way beyond the office walls.
Now, okay, stuff online can spread widely and have real impact.
Sure.
But for private companies, the usual free speech protections often don't apply in the same way they do against government action.
Right? It's different.
So it raises that question for you listening. Is it fair for a company to fire someone over a personal blog post, a tweet, something on Facebook, even if it's off hours, not directly work-related? And, what are the legitimate concerns an employer might have about what employees say online?
And we're also seeing more location tracking, electronic badges, GPS. On one hand, you can see benefits, better security with key cards, maybe, more efficiency in some places, like hospitals tracking nurses for emergencies, or trucking companies using GPS for routes and driver safety.
But the flip side is that feeling of being watched constantly. Employees worry about privacy loss when their movements are tracked, maybe even down to how long they took for a break. Which really brings us back full circle, doesn't it, to that core tension we've been talking about, this constant balancing act between tech progress, business needs, and, well, individual rights and expectations.
Exactly.
It really makes you think. What is a reasonable expectation of privacy at work today? And when is it okay or justified for an employer to monitor something like your email?
Yeah, this whole deep dive just underscores how complex it all is, this changing world of work. So many facets. We've hit on some really interesting points, I think, from how tech affects job numbers in surprising ways, to the ins and outs of remote work and these ongoing debates around monitoring.
Absolutely. And as you think about all this, maybe mull over what the future holds, what skills might be crucial as things keep shifting. What are those important ethical conversations we need to have about tech in our work lives? We'd encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, think about the implications, not just for your own career, but, for the bigger picture too, for the economy, for society.